Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and you're watching The Brown Feminist. Today I'm making this video to share really good news with all of you guys, and that is that I got a new position in clinical research that I'm super thrilled about. So this video, I really want to tell you what the role was about, what the application process was like, the interview experience, and how it all came about. Now, I will be making another video with the full-on details about what questions I got asked in the interview, how I handled them, what kind of responses I had, and which ones I think I could have done better on, and more tips. So if you want that video and special content requests alongside it, don't forget to comment down below. Don't forget to also subscribe to my channel right now, please. So as most of you know, I have been working as a clinical research assistant at McGill University for the past year. Now, how it usually works is as you're moving up, some positions you can really jump from being a clinical research assistant or a trial assistant directly to being a coordinator, or there might be organizations who need way more roles in the middle because of the vastness of the kind of project, the kind of heavy workload, and also because there are larger teams which really want to segment the kind of positions that lead you to being a senior manager or coordinator. So in my case, I have applied to a much bigger team, which has a bigger workload and is a heavier hands-on clinical trial instead of being an observational clinical research project. So in this new position and in this new company, they were actually hiring for the position of Clinical Research Assistant 3, which means it's a level 3 clinical research role. So it will be 2 positions up from what I'm doing right now, which is from Clinical Research Assistant to a level 2 and finally a level 3. So let me give you an idea of what a Clinical Research Assistant of a level 3 standard usually does. A lot of the work that they do actually overlap with the tasks and responsibilities of a research associate or a trial coordinator. So a lot of what I will be doing, once again, similar to my previous role, will be applying for ethics approvals. However, I used to work with more low-risk project or low-harm projects, which had a slightly different kind of research application compared to a full-on clinical trial. Now, if you don't know what a trial is, a very simple way to understand it is if you had a medical treatment like a drug or a kind of surgical procedure or something else that's interventional, and that was being tested on the human population. So that is kind of what differentiates clinical research as a more broad genre to clinical trials, which is like a much more narrowed down and specialized field. So I personally had a great interest in moving into trials. I wanted to do work that was more translational, had higher impact, and could really change like human life and health in that research field in a more profound way. So that is why I wanted to kind of move into a more niche specialty, which is to go into clinical trial organization and management in the long run. So typically a clinical trial like this is led by either a physician, like a surgeon or an MD, or it could be a pharma-sponsored trial, which is being done at the site level at a CRO, which is a clinical research organization or a contract research organization. In my case, I have chosen to work in a project which is physician-led or a surgeon-led trial, where they're the ones making the decisions about the study design, how it's going to go, and they might also be the ones who are actually producing or performing the intervention of the trial itself. So in this kind of trial model, there is of course going to be a lot more documentation. It is more high impact, and as a result, I will have to be a lot more knowledgeable about the disease, the intervention in itself, but also on just the trial design and answer all of the questions of patients. Because these are slightly higher risk actually trials, there is more concern usually from patients and patients' families when they're getting recruited into the study. So study recruitment is like a little bit more difficult and challenging, but also a lot more rewarding. So I am really excited to be working on such a high impact, kind of high intervention kind of clinical trial. I'm excited to take on like the greater responsibilities, work with like even more sensitive like patient data who are like actively like either ill or kind of undergoing procedures and giving their consent, and then of course performing the assessments that go into it, performing kind of the follow-ups that go into it, performing follow-up assessments after the procedure. doing the data collection, the data analysis, manuscript writing, and everything else that I've told you about in this video down below if you want to check it out, which is kind of more of the typical roles of a clinical research assistant. But the additional part is going to be that this is going to be a lot more paperwork, a lot more being careful, a lot more sensitivity because of the nature of the trial and the kind of surgical or drug interventions that it is going to be using. So like I already told you, I will be doing a full-on video about the actual interview itself and what questions I got asked and how I handle them. But today I wanted to give you guys kind of a general idea about like what happened during the interview process. So the full time between me applying to me getting an interview was about 3 weeks time, and during this time I had a few communications with them about like what's a good time to set up an interview and a couple of other details to make sure that it's still something I'm interested in and something that works in terms of our timeline of the project and the level of commitment. After that, I had my first interview, which happened with the entire research portion of this PI's team, as well as the clinical trial manager and the clinical research coordinator. After I had finished that interview, I heard back from them in about 1 to 2 days' time, and I was asked to do a second interview with the panel as well. And this time in the panel, the principal investigator of the study, who is also like the MD or the surgeon who is leading the study, was also present, and the question style was very different. While in the first one, I did a more traditional interview that was kind of based on what skills I had, what made me good for this role, and all of those things like, have you done this? Have you done ethics? What do you know about this? What's your educational background? Like a more streamlined standard interview. The second one was actually more kind of to test if our personalities and the way that we think of research and the way that I approach research is similar and aligned with the way that the PI does it. And I think that was a much more interesting interview that I want to tell you more about in my second video, but it was very different because I could feel that as I'm moving up the kind of steps in this world of clinical research, it's opening up my mind to like how at one point they're no longer looking at the nitty-gritties and the ABCs of what skills you have and what you don't, but they're also looking at like as a person and as a researcher, are you a good fit for the team, and kind of what kind of ways that you think about troubleshooting problems in research, how you would approach kind of a disease model, how you would perhaps approach or think about a certain medical condition, and how the research needs to be designed in the long run, and just your personality as a researcher, your career goals as a researcher, and just making sure not that whether or not it's good or bad, because everybody is obviously going to have different career goals, but more to make sure that they are aligned with the goals of the team. Sorry about that, there's a very friendly dog barking, so I will be right back. And of course, I am now at the final portion of this very quick video today, and I want to tell you a little bit about the compensation packages. I'm sorry for any of the barking in the background, please ignore. So for the compensation packages, one thing that I've noticed that was very interesting is that once you're in clinical research roles, sometimes the title is not necessarily going to equate to a certain value. In one kind of smaller project, a clinical research assistant can be making $16 an hour, while on a much larger kind of heavier workload project, the same title, you could be making like $25 an hour or $30 an hour. However, there should always be some kind of consistency that you yourself have to make sure is if I'm moving here just for the title, or am I also growing financially? Am I also being compensated for all the skills and experiences that I have gathered so far? So that is one of the things that I was trying to make sure when I was accepting this role, because the range that they have offered, which is kind of like 27 to like 47, which is a huge range. Of course, that means that the company itself wants to be hiring on the basis of experience, and they're willing to kind of lowball you if they think they're taking a chance on you because you're very new, or they're also willing to kind of reward you if you are somebody with the perfect kind of background of skills and experiences that they're looking for. So in these kind of positions where there is a good range, it's important that we ourselves think about how much we value ourselves and how we want to be compensated before we go in for the interview. Of course, everybody wants to make the most amount of money they possibly can, but I also think it's important to be very reasonable. Just because they have an upper limit, I wouldn't want to go in and just automatically ask for the upper limit without having done some market research to see, yes, I think based on the skills and experiences that I have, which is maybe 1 year, therefore I should get somewhere in the middle of that range, or based on my 5 years experience and something that is super aligned and coincides with what you're looking for, I think I deserve like the top 5% of your pay range, right? So that's something that I am currently trying to negotiate. I will be making another video once our negotiations have been successful. Hopefully my recruiters are not watching this video right now. So that's it for this video today. I hope that you've enjoyed this little sneak peek into my life kind of live as things are unfolding. I have been offered the position. I have been kind of asked for references. So now it's just a matter of negotiating, finding a final number, and doing the paperwork. So I'll keep you posted about what exactly happened in the interview, and as well as how my negotiations are going and what strategies you can also use to make sure that you get what you deserve. So until next time, this was the Brown Feminist. Bye.